Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Kelly. I'm a third grade teacher and a student in SUNY Potsdam's Educational Technology Specialist program. In this episode, we will be discussing the pros and cons of AI in the classroom. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is AI? We hear the term AI a lot nowadays. We see it every time we open Snapchat. We talk to it when we need help from the bank. AI stands for artificial intelligence. This means it is a simulation of human intelligence by a machine. We can ask it questions, and it will spit out answers to the best of its ability. One thing to keep in mind throughout this episode is that AI is constantly changing. There are 4 things that these changes are based on: the new information AI learns, the reasoning it develops, self-correction, and creativity. AI can be a great asset in the classroom when used appropriately. You might be wondering, how exactly can AI be used in the school setting, other than students having it write their papers for them? AI can be used in many ways in the classroom. For now, we're going to break it up into 2 categories: planning and enhancing learning. Planning tools help teachers with the behind-the-scenes jobs like lesson plans, newsletters, and rubrics. Enhancing learning tools can be used with the students in class to encourage them to be engaged in the lessons. In this episode, we're going to explore 10 AI tools. I'm going to give you some pros and cons based on my experience with each tool, but I encourage you to try them out for yourself. The first tool we're going to look at is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is probably the most well-known AI tool out there at the moment. You can give it any prompt and it will give you an answer. This tool would fall into the planning category because it can help you with so many jobs behind the scenes. So let's check it out.
On ChatGPT, I'm going to ask it to write a 2-paragraph story about a cat. I always say please in case AI ever takes over. Once the chatbot has responded, I see that this is a little difficult for my 3rd grade readers, and say please make this at a 3rd grade reading level. It stayed with my original request of a 2-paragraph story, but it took the original story, read my new prompt, and changed it.
So here are the pros. You can give it very specific prompts, and the AI will change it accordingly. ChatGPT is also free for all users. The cons are that it can't generate information based from a link. All the information you're using must be entered manually. So ChatGPT can also provide false information. It is always important to check the information before you push it out to your students. Overall, I would rate it a 4 out of 5 stars. Can't go wrong with a classic. The next tool is Magic School. This tool is my favorite one I've used, and I shamelessly advertise it to everyone that I can. This tool would fall into the planning category as well. Let's check it out.
So on Magic School, first we can see that it has over 60 tools that you can use. And you can star your favorite ones. So up at the top, my 2 favorites are the YouTube video questions, which when you click, you choose your grade level, the number of questions you want, and the kind of question. Then you need to enter a YouTube link, and it will generate the questions based on the video. It also gives you the answer key and the spot in the video that you can find the answer. My other favorite tool is the math story word problems. So again, you choose your grade level, the number of questions, you enter the standards. So I'm going to say comparing fractions, and the story topic. What is it going to be about? I'm going to say baking. I can click generate. There are some other awesome tools. One that I really like is the informational text. You can go in, choose your grade level, choose what you want it to write, how much, and your topic. I'm going to put in how to play Gaga ball because my school just got a Gaga pit and the kids are obsessed with it. Now I'm going to copy this because now that I have the text, I want to be able to generate questions. So I'm going to go to a new tool, text-dependent questions. I'm going to ask for 7 questions. I want them to be comprehension questions. And I'm going to insert the text.
The pros are that it is very user-friendly. It tells you exactly what information you need to provide to get the results that you want. And there are so many tools that you can use. You can find which ones work best for you. And you have access to all the tools with your free account. Like I said, this is my favorite AI tool, but that doesn't mean it's without some flaws. The cons are that unless you pay, you can't save your previous requests. So the AI has to relearn all your preferences every time you use it. So every time I use it, I have to enter 3rd grade again. Also, as great as it is that it has the separate tools for each task, right now there isn't a way to combine them. So for example, you can use the informational text writer to write a text, but then you need to copy and paste the text into the next tool you want to use, like the text-dependent question generator. And it would save some time and would be great if there was a way to jump from tool to tool during the same conversation you're having with the AI. Overall rating, 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's so fast and it's user-friendly. And it's also my favorite. Our next tool we're going to look at is called Education Copilot. Education Copilot is a toned-down version of Magic School. It offers 10 different tools for teachers to use. So let's check it out.
So starting with the unit planner, you're going to get started with that. Name our unit. I will do weather, and the subject is science. Click next, and talk about what the unit should cover. I'm going to fill in and say it should cover different types of weather, severe weather, and difference between weather and climate. For the standards and objectives, I'm going to say that 1, students will be able to know students will be able to know the definition of weather. 2, students will be able to know the definition of climate. students will be able to name different types of weather, and students will be able to name the types of severe weather. Click final step, and I'm going to say I want this unit to be 10 lessons long. I'm going to click create unit, and now we wait. This section was sped up to 11 times normal speed. The countdown in the corner stopped, but it's still generating. And I don't want to take up too much of our time watching, so we're going to leave. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see what this can offer today. But here are all the things that it can offer.
So the pros of this are that the recipe builder tool is exactly the kind of tool I was talking about that Magic School lacks. It creates all the materials you need for one lesson. It'll make the lesson plans, it'll make the worksheets, it'll even make a PowerPoint for you. The cons is that it's really slow. It takes 20 minutes or so to create a document. So this adds to the idea that AI doesn't save time for all those non-believers who are hesitant to use AI in their classroom. It's also very limited to what it can do. With the 10 tools that it offers, there's only so much that this tool can help with. Overall, I would rate it 1.5 out of 5 stars. It's too slow to be effective when there's all these other tools available. The next tool we're going to investigate is EduadeAI. EduadeAI is similar to Magic School and Education Copilot. It has 60 different tools. So let's check it out.
Here we have EduadeAI, and the first thing I notice is how much I like that it's organized. It shows you all the different planning tools, information objects, independent practice, cooperative learning, gamification, and different questions. And the one I'm really excited about is gamifications. It's something I haven't seen before. So I'm going to test it out by doing an escape room. So I'm going to click escape room. I'm going to enter my topics. I'm going to put weather and climate. I have up here that it's science, and for 3rd grade, I'm going to go add to workspace, and it pops up here. And it gives me a whole plan of how to do an escape room all about weather. So let's check out another one. Let's do some independent practice, and I want to try in a sentence structure. So I'm going to put nouns and verbs and click add to workspace and see what happens. So it's generating, and here it goes, and it's telling my students all the instructions they need to do, and they have to write some nouns and write some verbs to help them. So looking at this is probably a little too easy for my 3rd graders, so I might change the topic to noun and verbs recognition in sentences and add that to my workspace. And now when I scroll down, this is more what I would expect from my 3rd grade students. Now, as you can see, I've already used it a couple times, so I'm already at 8 out of the 15 limit that I can generate. But this website is great. It has an assistant as well, so it can help you with all these different things and give you some accessibility like accommodation tools, wellness for your students. It has a feedback bot so you can enter students' texts and it'll give you the feedback you're looking for. The chat box, you have to have the paid program, but the classroom management one, I'm really eager to try to be able to see specific situations, what AI would think you can do in those classroom situations. It also has an assessment builder. And it does show the history of all the things that I've done. So as you can see, I've used it a couple times to make escape rooms or Battleship and other things.
The pros are that the whole gamification tab. This is something that's different from the similar tools like Magic School. That is a great thing to be included. It's a great way to help teachers. The cons are that you're limited to 15 different generations, so this can limit what you can do. So overall, I would rate this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The 15 limit really makes it hard when you're trying to explore all the different formats and makes it hard for you to learn how to use this tool effectively. Diffit is a tool that can differentiate texts for students based on reading levels or their language. Let's check it out.
With Diffit, there are 3 different ways to get your resources. You can start with the Literally Anything tab, and all you need to do is type in your topic, your theme, or your question. So I'm going to type in bald eagles, and I'm going to choose 3rd grade and keep it in English, and I'm going to generate the resource. I like that as it loads, since it takes a little longer than others, it gives you some tips. This is helpful so you can learn more as you're waiting. So here I have an adaptive reading passage about bald eagles that was written, and it gave me a summary about my paragraphs and some keywords that students may need to learn, questions about it, as well as short answers and some open-ended prompts. The next tab is using an article or a video. So I have an article pulled up here. Again, it's about bald eagles. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it in here. As you can see when I look at this, it's all about birds. And when I scroll, it gives some interesting facts, but it's not at a level that my students could read. So I am going to change it from keep original to 3rd grade, and I'm going to keep it in English. It's loading all of the information because with any of the 3 tabs, it gives you all that extra supplemental supplies, not just the article. So here is my article changed from what was on the website to something that my 3rd graders could read. Again, it gives me my summary, my key vocabulary words, multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and open-ended prompts. If I look at this and say, this article still looks a little hard for my students, I could adjust the length. So should I make it, I could make it shorter, and I'm going to generate, and it's going to make it even more what I'm looking for a quick read for my students. And now it's a lot shorter. So the final step we could take is the any text or excerpt. So we paste the original excerpt, document, or other text to get the differentiated resources. So we could choose a file, or we could paste in here. So I have a document. We actually used this article as a test for students in my class. So I'm going to copy that. and I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to have it keep it at the original level, but I'm going to have it change it to Spanish. So this would be awesome for students who are learning English, or even if you're teaching another language, taking an English document and turning it into that other language so students have good articles to read about important topics. And this tip is great, using Diffit to align interventions based on what you're doing in the classroom. So here's the reading passage, but now it's giving all of the questions in Spanish.
Pros, it gives you a summary, key vocabulary, multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and open-ended questions whenever you generate a text. And it gives all of you that very quickly. The con, the free version only allows 15,000 characters per document, and the upgrade version maxes out at 50,000. Overall, I would rate this 3.5 out of 5 stars. This tool is helpful, but the free version limits what you can create. The last planning tool we're going to discuss is OtterAI. OtterAI is different from any of the other tools we've discussed so far. It doesn't help create lesson plans or materials. It writes transcripts for virtual and in-person meetings. So this tool would be helpful for CSE meetings, grade level meetings, or even staff meetings. Let's check it out.
So here we have a fake conversation, a fake meeting that I made talking about little Johnny and what Johnny is doing in class. This would be like if we were having an IEP meeting. Everything in this is made up. But we can see as people were talking, it took notes. It doesn't take the notes the best. You have to go in and fix them. Like here, it should say, I'm his general education teacher, Susan. Johnny is doing well in phonics. Here, it does pick up, but it picks up everything. So if you misspeak, it shows. As I said here, it said, my name is Rachel, I am Stephen, excuse me, I am Johnny's speech teacher. But what's really cool about this is you can come over here and you can ask the chatbot what's been happening. So I could say, Otter, at Otter, have I been mentioned? And since this is logged in on my name, when I click enter, Otter is going to say you were not mentioned in the provided meeting content. The meeting content only mentioned speaker 1, Gretchen, Rachel, and Johnny as the student. So that tells me that currently in this, nothing was about me. But I could also ask what decisions were made. Made regarding speech. And when I press that, it's going to tell me. So according to the meeting context, it was decided to change Johnny's speech therapy from 3 times a week to 2 times a week. So this is great to be able to go back and see everything that was discussed. It also gives timestamps. So
the pros would be that the timestamps within the transcript can help you easily find the information when you're looking back, as well as that you can use the chatbot to answer questions about the transcript. So you could ask, what did we decide about the test? And it will answer based on the transcript that it wrote. The cons of this are that with the free version, you can only get 300 minutes of recording a month, so only about 5 hours. And someone still needs to go through the script and make sure that everything makes sense, things are spelled correctly, all the things that a note taker does automatically. Overall, I would rate this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. This tool is helpful, but still requires a lot of effort from a person so that it's really not saving that much time. So now we're going to be moving into AI tools that can be used by students. These tools are much more focused on what they can do, which means it's easier for you to determine if this tool is right for you and in your classroom. The first one we're going to talk about is Hello History. This creates a chat with many famous people that will answer questions based on the knowledge of that person. So let's check it out.
So Hello History is a phone app, so you can only use it on cell phones. But once you get in, you can begin a conversation. So I can go to People and choose who I would like to have a conversation with. I'm going to choose Claire Barton. And it gives you a description of who they were. So it talks about who Claire Barton is, why she's important. She was the founder of the American Red Cross. And then I can start my chat with her. So it speaks the way that the person would speak in the time they were alive. So Clara Barton greets me as my dear friend. It is a pleasure to converse with you through this marvelous invention. I am Clara Barton and I've dedicated my life to helping others in times of crisis. So now I can ask her questions. I could say something about, when did the American Red Cross start teaching lifeguarding? And she could say the American Red Cross began teaching lifeguarding as part of its mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in emergencies. So it doesn't give me all the answers that I asked. I asked when. It just tells me why. So I might say, what year did the American Red Cross start teaching lifeguarding classes?
The pros of this are that it's a great way to engage students when learning about historical figures. The cons are that it is very limited what AI will answer. The figures will only answer questions that they would be able to answer if they were alive in their time. So they can only answer things that they could comprehend. The other con is that the free version only allows you to have 20 questions, and you don't have access to all the historical figures available. Overall, I would rate this 2 out of 5 stars. It's a very good idea in theory, but it's pretty easy for students to waste their interactions on useless questions should you use the free version. The next tool is called Animated Drawings, and Animated Drawings does just that. It animates drawings. So let's go check it out.
So we're going to get started, and the first thing it's asking us to do is upload a drawing of one character, making sure the arms and legs don't overlap. So this is giving some examples, and I'm going to upload my little alien that I drew the other day. And this is just a ask if we would like to participate in research. I'm going to disagree for now. Next, we have to make sure that we're finding the character. So they put a box around it. We just have to make sure that it fits everything. So it looks good. So I'm going to click next. It's going to scan it. Now they've separated the character from the background and highlighted it. So I just have to double check that every part of my character is highlighted where it's supposed to be, and then I click next. Now we have to put the joints. So where are the arms moving, the legs moving? So since my character has 2 arms, I need to adjust the shoulders a bit. and the elbows and the hands. His second set of arms will just kind of hang there. His legs look pretty good. Maybe I'll move his hips up a little bit, knees up a tiny bit more, and overall that looks pretty good. So I'm going to click next, and now it's doing any of the animations I want. So if I want him to dab, here he is. He's dabbing.
The pros are that no account is needed to use this tool, and it can be used to bring a student's story to life, which could be a great motivator for them to work their best on writing that story. The cons are that it's very limited in the actions the drawings can perform. There's only movements and no emotions. Overall, I would rate this 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's good, but there's so much more that it could do to help engage students. The next one we're going to look at is called Approdia, and this creates pictures based on a prompt given. So this would be a great way for students to add illustrations to stories that they've written. So let's go check it out.
Okay, so here we are. We can enter a prompt. Cat riding a horse. Maybe my student was telling a story about a cowboy cat, and now we want to make a picture. So we also can select the model of what the pictures are going to look like. So I can decide if I want it to be like a cartoon or if I want it to be realistic or absolute reality. For this one, I'm going to do absolute reality, and I'm going to generate. And here we have our picture. I'm going to click on it. It's not exactly what I was looking for. I asked for a cat riding a horse, and I do have a horse and someone on it, but it's not a cat. So I'm going to change it to say cat, the animal, on a horse's back. And let's try it again. And this one's interesting. Here we have a horse again, but we have a person like cat on a horse. Still not exactly what I'm going for, so I'm going to try it again. Four-legged cat, the animal, on a horse's saddle. Okay, so that one's still not what I was looking for. So we'll just change the prompt entirely and see what we can come up with. I'm going to try dog riding a roller coaster in space. And let's see what we get. Okay, so we have the roller coaster, there's the dog. So that one's pretty successful, but maybe I want it to look a little different. Maybe this one, I do want it to be a cartoon. So I'm going to try this and I'm going to generate it again. And that one looks pretty good. We got two dogs and definitely a roller coaster car. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
The pros are that there are a lot of different styles of art for the students to choose from, and you don't need an account to generate the photos. The cons for this are that you must be very specific with your prompt, and even then, it doesn't always work. So overall, I would rate this 1.5 out of 5 stars. When it works, it's great, but when it doesn't work, it takes too much time to find the exact prompt that will generate what you're looking for. The next tool we're going to look at is AudioPen. An AudioPen is a speech-to-text feature with a little bit of a twist. It will take the thoughts that you speak and turn it into a coherent paragraph. So let's check it out.
So AudioPen takes what you say and turns it into paragraphs that make sense. So here's one that I did before, and this is the paragraph it came up with. It came up with a title, Cat Cafe Adventures, and it says that I went to a cat cafe and saw cute cats. There was Piper, a calico, and Madeline with long black fur. They climbed on my shoulders and played fetch. But here's originally what I spoke into the mic. It said, one time I got to go to a cat cafe and I saw some really cute cats. There was a cat named Piper and a cat named Madeline, and the cats were so cute they climbed on, and Piper was calico, and they climbed on my shoulders and wanted to play fetch, and Madeline was black and had long fur. So it took this and turned it into sentences that made sense, that had a better flow. So I got to say what was on my mind as it came to my mind, and it turned it into a good paragraph. So
the pros of this are that it does a really great job of summing up what you want to say. You can insert details later as you're talking, and when the AI composes the paragraph, it will add those details where it best belongs. So I could really see this tool being helpful for students who are learning to organize their thoughts down on paper. The cons of this are that with the free version, you can only get 10 notes recorded, and the notes only last about 3 minutes. Overall, I would rate this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's helpful for organization, but students organizing their thoughts is something that's often a part of their grade with writing assignments, so it's a bit of a slippery slope to use this. Joining me now is Dionne Barratt. Dionne is an instructional coach here at Wayland-Cohocton Central School District, and she works primarily in the educational technology for the district. So thank you so much for joining us, and I just have a couple questions to ask. Okay. So my first question would be, what are your responsibilities in your position?
Sure. So I'm the instructional coach for educational technology, pre-K through 12. And that sounds like a really big job. Actually, at the heart of my role is just instructional coaching, right? So what does an instructional coach do? We lead with standards. We bridge the gap from New York State standards to teacher implementation of standards. So we're constantly talking not only about understanding standards, but also about implementation in terms of like classroom practices. What does that look like, right? But also staying on the forefront of making sure that we are using best practices, and within my role, the most appropriate technology in order to accomplish that goal. We also are charged with providing PD, professional development, to teachers, whether that looks like one-to-one coaching based on a teacher's goal, or it could be in professional learning teams leading the discussion, or even whole group faculty meetings. We sort of take charge of whatever we're asked to do.
So within that, how do you incorporate AI into that job?
Okay, so personally, we use it as a thought partner, really, because no one person can deeply know all of the standards that we're charged with having to coach around, right? So we often will use it as a thought partner to make sure that we are as deeply invested in understanding the work before we go in and try to help others do the work. We also use it with teams in terms of like creating resources. So if a teacher team is working on decodables for a certain unit, but they don't actually have those, we can use AI to help generate those. So it's not only about understanding the standard and then resources, but it's also in terms of being able to really deeply make sure we understand what the standard is asking us to teach.
Awesome. So as an instructional coach and really aiming towards technology, what AI tools would you recommend to teachers that come to you asking how they could start incorporating it in their classrooms?
Sure. So I would say there's so many AI tools out there, and they're developing every day more, that you can't possibly know all of the AI tools, right? And I really don't think even that you need to have a ton of tools. ready. I think in our district, we've been really strategic at looking at just two tools where we've been having conversations around Magic School AI and OpenAI, ChatGPT, because those have very similar um, but also very unique applications, right? So Magic School AI, in my opinion, is more of an entry level, right? Because with all of the different bots, you can really customize your work to what you are hoping to accomplish. And then OpenAI is more conversational, if you will, right? But either way, I think the ability to use those tools is something that we have to learn and be able to do well for ourselves, because ultimately our students are going to leave and enter a world where AI is everywhere, right? And we know in our personal lives it exists, and to be able to use that tool ethically is really the ultimate goal.
So what AI tools do you advise, if any, for staff to stay away from, and what makes you advise that?
Yeah. Again, I don't know all of the tools, so I'm sure there are some that have risks, but we as a district have only chosen two to really fully explore. You know, there are other ones that I may sign up for an account in order to take a look into, but then it doesn't go any further than learning about the tool, right? I would say though, if I had to advise staff members on what not to do with AI, it's to just accept it blindly, right? Because we know we don't do that in any other aspect of our life, right? We fact check, we reread, we really dive into, does this make sense? At the end of the day, artificial intelligence is fantastic, but it is useless without human intelligence, right? So to me, I wouldn't necessarily pinpoint one tool that you should stay away from. I would just say be a smart consumer and definitely think about the tools that you're using and question output, just like we teach our kids.
So, do you have any tips for teachers that are going out and exploring how to really make sure if an AI tool is complying with the Ed Law 2D?
Yeah. I love that you asked that question because oftentimes we forget because it feels like we're interacting with a human, right? So I would say it is not your responsibility to investigate that individually, right? That's why we have our data protection officers. So if you are curious about a tool, it's never a bad idea to reach out to your data protection officer and say, "What are your thoughts on this?" Because they will tell you if it's a, if it's a hard pass, right? But like with any third party resource that we use, just be smart about what information you're allowing it to have, right? So if it asks for Google Drive access, that's going to be a red flag for you because within your Google Drive is the name of every student you have, right? If you're using AI to generate, and there's a ton of applications, right? You can use AI to generate social stories for your students who are struggling in the classroom, right? But if you're going to do that and you really have a student in mind, please don't include first and last names and grade level, right? Because all of that is personal identifiable information, right? So some AI tools like Magic School AI will actually warn you when you sign up that you shouldn't be doing that. So I think those are things just to be aware of, just to be thinking about what permissions you're granting and what information you're inputting.
And my last question is, what advice would you give the listeners about finding AI tools to use in the classroom?
So I think it's a lot about growing your network, right? So I think it's never a bad thing, even if it's not just about AI, to join professional circles and to be listening to what others are doing. I think that's how we stay current in our own profession, right? But I also think that you need to lead with, and that this is going to sound odd coming from a technology coach, but it's not about the technology, right? We started talking about like, what are my roles, right? And we talked about what are the standards we want our students to be able to know, and what do we want them to be able to do, right? About 5 years ago, probably a little bit more, but Weston Kieschnick published a book called Bold School. And in that book, he had an analogy. He said, and I'm going to misquote it now that we're talking, but he said that learning is the utmost, it's the most important, right? And growth is important as well, right? But technology, that's sort of like when you think about a deck of cards, right? Learning and growth, that's your king and queen, right? But technology is your court jester. It makes it very engaging, very attractive to kids. But at the end of the day, you would never put the court jester in charge of the entire kingdom, would you? So you shouldn't be leading with, what AI tool will I use today? You really need to be looking at, what work do I need to accomplish? And is there an AI tool that can make my work happen better and potentially even faster in order to allow you to be able to do the other things that we don't always get to do because we're running out of time being classroom teachers.
Hey, well, thank you again so much for taking the time to come in and let me interview you. We really appreciate all of your insight.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time today to listen about the pros and cons of AI in the classroom. I hope you take some time and find the tools that work best for you. Remember, AI can be a powerful tool when used at the right time.